Hello everyone. Now that we've looked at the mark scheme and we've looked at the method we should be employing, let's consider what a full mark response looks like for section B of AQA Lit A2 paper 1. So again, we've looked at our question. Please refer back to our videos previously to make sure you do that. So let's now look at what a full mark response should look like. Again, remember what we're about to see is not taken from your key text, but is exactly the same method that you need to be employing. During the First World War, hundreds of men were executed for desertion and cowardice despite the terrifying experiences in the trenches and the ensuing mental consequences of being subjected to such conditions. Context. It is not surprising then that poets such as Wilfred Owen and Siegfried Sassoon were keen to dispel the myth that such men were merely cowards by describing the realities of life and death in the trenches. To say that all poems in the anthology are unpatriotic is inaccurate. Early war poems such as The Volunteer by Herbert Asquith reflect the ideals of the traditional romantic canon. So there's our context. There we're setting the tone of the poem, we're answering the question, and also we're getting some wider reading in there just to show how perceptive we are. Asquith's The Volunteer is easily recognisable as a traditional patriotic poem for several reasons. There's that argumentative point being established. I'm now going to explore that in some depth. Firstly, its position at the start of the anthology means that it was written before the horrifying truths about the trenches came to light. We might anticipate then the antiquated language, old-fashioned language, which makes war sound so idealistic. Asquith describes a clerk with no lance broken in life's tournament. He uses a euphemism to suggest that he has no experience of war and yet to discover the satisfaction of battle. Alternatively, so there's alternative views that we need to employ, AO5, Asquith is unknowingly highlighting the sense of emasculation that writers such as Owen and Sassoon express in their later work, who both come to see war as something unheroic through their own experience. Furthermore, the reference to chivalry harkens to knights in shining armour, suggesting that men who go to war are traditionally heroic figures in medieval games, highlighting the sport of war. Furthermore, the subject of the poem escapes his unsatisfactory life in a grey city by reading with bright eyes about the gleaming eagles of the legions and the men of Agincourt. Once again, Asquith lists past heroic figures, so we're looking at structure here as well as context, such as the Roman army, to suggest that war places the ones grey, suggesting boring and lifeless, a language analysis figure, in a position of immorality, highlighting the heroic nature of war should be immortality. Furthermore, the constant use of iambic pentameters, a structure and form again, not only helps to stress words such as now, to highlight the positive impact of wars for the reader, but create a meter which suggests marching, reflecting a strong, organised and heroic soldiers who have gone before. In this way, Asquith likens war to a game, much like, so here's our comparison, Jessie Pope in the recruitment poem Who's for the Game, which encouraged men to sign up by comparing war to a football match, using the reference to sporting heroes rather than military ones. Rather than using the same syllabic structure, Pope reverts to a shorter style in order to thrill and excitement, to highlight the thrill and excitement of combat, rather than highlight a sense of organisation and order Asquith uses to reassure the reader. Pope's lexical choices, word choices, are far more active than Asquith's, using sporting semantic fields such as tackle and grip to reinforce the idea of taking part, rather than be on the sidelines, acting in a cowardly manner. Furthermore, both poets use a split structure in order to highlight the heroics of war, whereas Asquith uses a two-stanza structure to demonstrate the eternal heroism associated with dying for one's country, dreams are satisfied. Pope uses an alternative rhyme scheme to present a sense of sides, the heroic men who participated and the cowards who want a seat in the stand. It is clear, therefore, that Asquith and Pope's poems perpetuates a heroic vision of war. Then similarly, you can see how I'm about to go into my second point, but notice how that's conveying all the elements of the mark scheme that we need to. And we'll do that twice more. But what about our conclusion then? Does that do what we say it should? To conclude, it is inaccurate to say that all poems from this period were unpatriotic, as both Pope and Asquith have demonstrated in their works, taken from the early parts of this epoch. The importance to glorify the sacrifice of men and women during the conflict was an important one in the quest to maintain the support for the war. So that's the method you should be employing, and that's how it should look. So thank you. It's now up to you to get practicing. Good luck.